Good afternoon and welcome to Find Your Sparkle with Jen, where you'll be inspired, influenced, and entertained. I'm host Jennifer Stewart, owner of Jazz Potential and creator of Find Your Sparkle. And today I'm extremely excited to have with me my new friend, Rachael. Oh my goodness, Rachael Kulei.
Kulei.
I'm gonna stop that. Stop. Good afternoon and welcome to Find Your Sparkle with Jen, where you'll be inspired, informed, and influenced. I'm your host, Jennifer Stewart, owner of Jazz Potential and creator of Find Your Sparkle. And today I am super excited to have with me my new friend, Rachael Kulei, who's the CEO and founder of Zimee Wellness Center and Indigenous Sovereignty. And let me tell you, Rachael has so many incredible attributes and oh my gosh, accomplishments in her life. It's literally, I can't even tell you, but I'll just let you know a few. So she's a traditional native healer that also uses other healing modalities, an herbalist, oh my goodness, vibrational sound therapist, certified practitioner in as a vibrational sound. Oh my goodness, the list, body code practitioner, emotion code practitioner, the list goes on and on. And today we're going to find out more about her and what makes her her and all of the amazing things that she's gone through. But we're probably going to only have time to touch on a little bit. First of all, welcome, Rachael. I'm so glad to have you here. We first kind of met through an online group and I saw an interview with you. And at that moment, I decided I knew that I had to interview you. So I'm so happy you're here. Welcome.
Thank you for having me here today. It's an honor to be here.
Can you tell us a little bit about yourself? Like, where did you grow up? A little bit about your family and a little bit of background so we can get to know you.
Okay, Unahaganesinga, Zanabechu Nabemiya Dachina. My name is Rachael Kulei, and I am a member of the Northwest Band Shoshone Nation. I come from a long line of chiefs, so Chief Washki on my mother's side, and then I come from Chief Joseph on my father's side from the Nez Perce. I was born and raised here in Portland, Oregon, and but my people, they come from Washki, Utah, and so my grandmother and my mother actually moved out here into the city to give us opportunity, me and my siblings, to have a different education and more opportunities to go after our dreams. There's more opportunities in the city that we're able to have access to than what we are able to on the reservation. So I was very fortunate on that aspect to be able to be raised in the city. And growing up, my mom, she worked at Oregon Ballet Theatre when I was about 2 years old. And so she would actually take me to ballet or to work with her. And the school director, Ide, she would take me by the hand and she would just take me around to classes all the time. And I would just sit there quietly and just watch her teach class and watch all of the dancers in ballet. And then she would take me to company class. And so then I'd actually get to go and sit and watch the company of Oregon Ballet Theatre rehearse and take class and, you know, really work hard. And so then by the age of 3 was when you were actually able to be enrolled into ballet at Oregon Ballet Theatre. And so what I remember when I turned 3 years old, Haide, she looked at me and she goes, do you want to go into ballet? And I was like, yes, I want to be in there. And so she took me by the hand and she threw me into ballet class, and I became like the one of the next protege types that was raised from little baby. And by the time I was 8 years old, I had worked so hard that I received my first merit scholarship. And that was huge for me because ballet, the tuition is very expensive. And my family didn't have that much money. And so I knew there was like this internal gut instinct that was just like, I just had to have this scholarship in order to be able to dance. I just knew. I
Wow.
didn't know my parents' financial situations, but I know now that they really did rely on that scholarship that I got, to, provide me throughout my training, because it was thousands of dollars. And then you want to add point shoes on top of that, and
Oh my
that's about
golly. Yeah.
$100 pair of point shoes. I'd go through
Wow.
point shoes about 4 to 6 pairs a month,
Oh
because of
my golly.
training I
Holy
was doing.
cow.
Yes. So by the
Wow.
time I was 10 years old, I was I was in a private school. And so I'd be in school from 7:30 to 2:30. Then I would get in the car. Sometimes I would actually have to do quick changes in the car on the way to
Oh my
ballet,
gosh.
so that my hair would be in a tight bun, and I would be in
Right.
my leotard and my tights, get out of the door, run into the School of Ballet or Oregon Ballet Theatre, and have like 30 minutes, an hour to stretch. And even then, if I was 45 minutes early, that was still considered late for myself. I had to be at least an hour early,
Holy
to
cow.
get myself prepared and ready for class mentally. I had to be stretched. I had to be warmed
Right.
up. Um,
Wow.
then I would start about 3:30, 4 o'clock, and then I would be in the studio until about 9 o'clock at night. And that was at 10 years old. So
Oh my gosh.
that was my life, was school, go to ballet,
Dance.
and
Yeah.
I would dance. And so we were trained in, it wasn't just ballet I was trained in. So I was also trained in flamenco. So I started dancing flamenco
Nice.
when I was 8 years
That's
old.
fun.
Then we did Russian character. Then there was also tap dancing, jazz, modern dancing, hip hop.
Nice.
So I was trained
Everything.
in everything.
Everything.
And that
That's
was the
amazing.
idea, was that Haide, she wanted dancers that were eclectic in their dancing. And so that way you
Hmm.
had more opportunities to go into better dance companies, by having a well versatile like background of all these different styles of dances. And so it's actually challenging. A lot of people don't realize, but for ballet dancers to go into hip hop dancing, it's actually
Oh
very
my golly.
challenging. A lot of ballet dancers have a difficult time actually getting their body to move in fluidity, as like a hip hop dancer or a modern dancer.
Right.
So being
Yeah.
able to master both sides of that is a challenge in itself.
Wow.
Um,
That's amazing.
so they actually called my name is a swinger. So as a professional dancer, my title is a swinger. What
Okay.
that means is that I have the ability to memorize everyone's part besides my own.
Oh my golly. That's incredible. When did you realize that?
I was 12 years old, and we were doing a huge ballet production, Paquita, and I had my own part, but yet I understudied all of the other dancers, that were in the main roles. And so I was constantly just like watching everyone's part. And
Wow.
one day, one of the girls, she was sick and she wasn't there. And she asked some of the other girls, who can fill in her spot. So she would grab some of the understudies and put them into this girl's spot, and they would all freeze and they didn't know the girl's spot. And so she
Oh.
kept switching out about 3 or 4 girls, and she got mad. She's Cuban. So she was very, 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 very strict. So I'm talking
Right.
military style strict.
Oh my goodness.
And
Yes.
and so she was getting mad. And so finally she looked at everybody. It was like, really, nobody can come and fill in this spot. And so I just like stood and I looked around, and I was like, nobody's gonna take it. So I jumped and I took her spot, and I ended up doing, and this was at the beginning of an hour and a half long piece. I
Oh my
did
goodness.
all of her parts without
Plus your own.
yeah, and I never missed anything. Then in the
Wow.
middle of it, she started grabbing me and putting me in other people's spots and taking them out of their spots. And I start,
Holy.
so then I was like, she was literally moving me around in different spots to prove and show everyone that I knew everybody's spot. And
Wow.
and I did it. I was able to do
Wow.
it. And
That's a
that's
pretty
when
incredible.
it is, but that's when I realized that I just had
A
I guess
gift.
a gift of, like, even a
Yeah.
more gift of memorizing and the ability to know everything and what was going on around me. And which now, as I got older into companies, that plays a huge role into being able to do choreography, because being
Oh my
able to
gosh.
actually know and see all of those parts as a choreographer, being able to have that gift when I was younger, now it plays where I can actually do choreography not on just one person or two people. I can actually set
Mhm.
it on, a group of people, and being able to see what each person is doing individually. But hadn't I been able to know that, I wouldn't be able to really see that on in a different level in a way.
Wow, that's pretty incredible. So you used your gift throughout your lifetime. So talk about from, the journey from, that 6-year-old that started to now. And I know there's been a lot of things that have happened in between there, but you have a lot of, I mean, really incredible stories where you're a walking miracle, no short of any other word on so
Yeah.
many levels. I mean, just, your talents alone are miraculous. But you've had an interesting journey with cancer. And I
Yes.
know that um, there's so many people who are impacted. And if you're not impacted yourself, I don't know that there's anyone that I can think of who doesn't know someone who's had cancer and been impacted by cancer.
Mhm.
So you've got a really incredible story with that. And we're going to go to a break in a minute. But before we go to break, can you give us kind of a like Reader's Digest? So when we're on the break, people are going to be absorbing what you said so they can prepare to come back and hear the rest of your story on that. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
people are going to
Okay.
be
Well,
sitting there, people are going to sit there and shake their head because they're not going to think they're hearing properly.
Well, okay. You said 6 years old, and 6 years old, I was diagnosed with cancer, and the doctors had no clue what kind of cancer I had. I had a tumor that was in the center of my chest, and it basically looked like a third boob in the middle of your chest.
Oh,
And it stuck out pretty big, but then at the same
wow.
time, I had to sleep propped up. I couldn't sleep laying down. If I laid down, it felt like I had like a 300, 400 pound person sitting on top of me.
Oh my
And
goodness.
so now, as I go older, I understand even more the trauma and things with cancer. And with this specific cancer, and what caused it was heartache. During that time, my aunt was very verbally abusive to me, and
Oh,
this she was young, so mind you, our ages are very close in age. And
okay.
my mother was more like a mother to her, so when I was born, there was almost like that jealousy, from this little teenager. You're talking 10 years old, 12 years old, and your older sister is basically your mom in a sense, and then all of a sudden you see this new baby get born, and you see this love of this mother and a child. And so this teenager, starts getting jealous and
Yes.
envious, and
Oh,
starts telling me as a child, nobody wants you. I wish you're dead.
oh my,
Your mom and dad don't want you alive. Nobody wants you alive. We all hate you. So it was just constantly like all of this hate that was being spoken on me. And actually, over time, I ended up losing my hearing. I went deaf.
oh my
I had
gosh.
to get tubes put in my ears to bring my hearing back. And then this tumor formed on my chest.
Oh my
And as
goodness.
I grew older, and as we learn, this trauma that was on my chest was all this heartache from these words that was being spoken to me. So it
Oh
was
my
like
goodness.
my heart was absorbing all of these emotions and these traumas that was happening. And so over time, they were going to go do a biopsy and they were going to remove the tumor. And I'll never forget this. I was in the MRI and I was laying in, and this is where I ended up getting claustrophobia from this, because I had to
Oh
lay
my
on the
goodness.
bed, strapped down, and 6 years old, and you hear the knocking sound of the MRI, and you're in this room by yourself. And I just remember there was like all of these doctors constantly around, and testing all these things, and they couldn't figure it out, so they were going to do surgery.
Oh my goodness.
And the
Can I
night
interrupt you only because we
Yep.
have to go to break? I'm a little
Oh,
bit over,
okay.
but we're going to take a quick break and we'll be
Let's
right
do
back. You're
it.
listening to CIOE 97.5 FM. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Find Your Sparkle with Jen, and welcome back, Rachel. Oh my goodness, we left you with a cliffhanger. You can continue your story when you were a 6-year-old girl in this MRI and you're claustrophobic, and oh my goodness.
And so I'm about to go into surgery. So that's where I left off, is we had surgery planned. And I'll never forget this. It was the night before the surgery. My mom sat me down and she asked me, Rachel, do you believe that God, creator, can take this from you? And I looked at her and I said, yes, I believe he can. And she goes, okay, we're going to sit and we're going to pray. And so my family, we all came together, and my family, they gave me a blessing. And in that blessing, I was told that I would wake up and my cancer would be gone. And
Wow.
I wouldn't have to go through the surgery, and that through my faith, that a miracle would happen, and that I would be cured from my cancer. And so
Wow.
I just remember, I was like, okay, I'm like, it's gone. It's gone. And I'm like, I'm not going to have surgery. I'm going to wake up and it's going to be gone. And so I went to bed, and sure enough, next morning I woke up, it was gone.
Wow. It's incredible.
The tumor was gone, and I can still remember clear as day my mom getting on the phone with the doctor and calling them and saying, Rachel doesn't need to do the surgery today. And they're like, what are you talking about? There's no way. She had, she was in here 2 days ago and their cancer was there, and there's no way impossible that there's no way possible that this cancer is like, this tumor is off of her chest. There's no way. They're like, ma'am, you're just afraid. Everything's going to be okay. Just bring your child in. Like, let us do the surgery. We're trying to help you. And she's like, okay, I'll bring her in, but you're not going to do the surgery. And they're like, no, you like, just bring her in. We need to do this. And she's like, all right. And she kind of looked at me like, well, let's go, mom. So we went, and we
Wow.
got in there, and there, I kid you not, there was 30 doctors in that MRI room standing
Whoa.
around me. Every doctor at Peace Health was in that room,
Whoa.
dumbfounded, not knowing what the heck happened, but a miracle. And they just
Wow.
looked at my mom and they're like, what did you do? And she goes, all we did was pray. And
Wow.
they did all these tests and ran all these tests, and they just finally, they just looked at me and they're like, you're a miracle. It's
Miracle.
a
Wow.
miracle. And so ever since then, it was that faith that actually carried me throughout my whole life. And
Awesome.
it was those hard times that actually, that helped me when I, pushed forward and went into dance and things like that, that it gave me a whole nother sense of being able to fight, and
Yes.
their sense of purpose and direction. And too, so it helped me too, so that I was even more driven, because when you're going into any type of profession, especially as an athlete, when you're a kid
Hmm.
and you're really diving in, you have to have that support, but then you have to have the drive, and but the passion too. And
Yes.
and not only that, there's a whole nother sense that people don't ever really talk about, is the social part of it. So there's a whole nother
right.
social part of it. So you have a challenge of, do you want to be in with the popular people, or do you like
Mhm.
go and hang out and go party, or do you want to dive your nose into the book and have your 4.0 so that you can have your
Scholarships.
your scholarships, and so that you can do all of these things. And so it was, there was a lot of battles that I would go through as a kid, that ended up pushing me through those things. So by the time I was actually in 7th grade, I went into public school system for the first time. And so I had no idea what sex was. I had no idea what alcohol and drugs were or anything like that.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
my mom
Yeah.
didn't have me in sex education classes, and so I didn't even know what I didn't know what any of that was. And so that was the first time I ever had a boyfriend, was in 7th grade, and he kept wanting to have sex with, for 8th grade. He kept want to have sex with me, and I didn't even know what this was, so I just kept saying no. And so I was in the Nutcracker for Oregon Ballet Theatre many, many years. And it was around that time. And I was supposed to have my so-called friends come with me to watch me perform, but they ended up not going. So I ended up having my mom drop me off at their house afterwards. And ended up that they ended up roofing me,
Oh,
my
no.
girlfriends, and they ended up taking me down the street to one of our kids, the boys' house, and I ended up getting raped by 3 boys that
Oh
night.
my God.
And I actually don't remember it. I only remember part of it. I just remember hiding in the closet and then getting ripped out of the closet and then thrown backwards. And after that, I don't remember anything but waking up the next morning at my friend's house. But as time went on, my mom, she ended up pulling me out of school and homeschooling me. And and then fast forward into 9th grade, I figured, okay, I'll try to go to high school, and I ended up having flashbacks and started
Oh, wow.
remembering uh, the rape.
Oh my
Because
golly.
the guy that did it was there at school. So I'd pass him in school. And so then all of a sudden I started having these flashbacks, and I
Wow.
started blacking out, and all these things started happening.
Oh my
So then
gosh.
I actually started going to therapy. So I actually went and saw a therapist, and she was helping me through. I was actually doing more art therapy, and then inner child work. Uh,
Good.
so
Yeah,
with
that helps.
dealing with the inner child and all of
Mhm.
that. So that was really good, working through all of that. And then, so that was its challenge in itself. So then that actually splayed my hips, and it changed the functions of my body.
Oh,
And so
wow.
I actually lost muscle strength in ballet. And so it
Oh
was
my
like after
goodness.
that happened, it damaged my pelvis. So then fast forward going to 18, I ended up getting pelvic cancer. So
Wow.
you have all of these energies
Wow.
of these things and these traumas that end up storing and lodging, and then it
Yeah.
ended up, then from that trauma, then I kept getting pelvic injuries. And so it was like this energy that was absorbed in the
Yeah.
uterine was just
Right.
attracting all of these physical injuries. So then by the time I was 17, um, I was so depressed and suicidal because of everything. I had started drinking alcohol. And so my change in direction with dance
Right.
was not as clear because I was hurting. And
Yes.
then Haide, she ended up selling. The whole change of direction of Oregon Ballet Theatre shifted. We had a new company director that came in, a new school director that came in. And so it was like everybody that I had known and grown up with just all of a sudden drastically changed on me too.
Mm.
And
Wow.
they ended up bringing, they came from San Francisco Ballet. They brought up their own dancers, put those dancers into the pre-company where I was at.
Oh.
And they put those of us that were in that pre-company and put us into a new made up level, and were
Oh.
training us in balancing. But I was trained in all 4 types of ballet. And so Balanchine is more of your robotics. I call it the robotic style dancing, where everybody looks the same and there's no expression whatsoever.
Right.
I have to
Yeah.
express myself. So I ended up not wanting to dance anymore. And instead of saying that I wanted to choose a different dance company and go somewhere else, I decided I just completely wanted to quit dancing altogether. And my mom looked at me and she goes, well, if you're really real, I want to watch you throw your point shoes in the trash. Well, I was so
Mhm.
angry at that moment. I was like, fine, I'm done. And I grabbed my point shoes and I threw them in the trash can. And the moment I threw it in the trash can, I had this like internal feeling like I just screwed up. Like I just made a
Mm.
big mistake
Oh my
by
gosh.
throwing my talent into the trash like that, instead of going other ways of being able to, handle the situation. I chose anger and all of this hurt. And I was like, I'm done. Three
Yeah.
days later, I was in a car accident and I had a 360 spinal cord hyperextension. So
Oh.
I was basically, went through, I was going through a light and I was going to stop at the light to go to the gas station. It was turning yellow and it was raining and there was a truck right behind me. So I figured if I went through the light and then turned into the gas station after the light, it would give enough time for the guy to stop at the light. He followed me through the light,
Oh,
and as
sheesh.
I went into the gas station, he T-boned the back end of my car, and I was in a sports car, and it spun me into the gas station. And luckily, the seatbelt did not catch, or I would have broken my ribs across my
Oh my
chest.
goodness. Oh my
But being
goodness.
so flexible, I flipped around. So there we go.
Holy moly. So I hate to do this, but we are out of time right now. But the good news is after this broadcast, we're going to have a bonus segment on my podcast. So I just want to thank you for being here so much. It's been
Thank
an
you.
absolute honor, and we'll see you in a moment. And everyone else, remember to go out and do something that makes you sparkle today and every day. You're listening to CIOE 97.5 FM. We'll catch you next time, friends. Bye for now. Welcome to the bonus section of Find Your Sparkle with Jen. And Rachael is here to continue some of her amazing, miraculous story from being a dancer and being diagnosed with cancer and healing herself and having been traumatized by rape as a teenager. And oh my goodness. So we left off right around that time where you were talking about all of the things that were happening to you around that time and being deserted and being diagnosed again with a second bout of cancer at 17.
Yeah, so I was in the car accident first, and then I was
Oh,
diagnosed.
oh,
Yeah,
after
the
the car.
cancer
Okay.
it was after. So it kind of felt like it was like just like this domino effect of things that just started happening. Like after I threw my point shoes in
Yeah.
the trash, three
Oh my
days later,
gosh.
I get in this car accident, and then it was like literally everything. It was like I felt like God was like, "Oh, I gave you this talent and you're just going to throw it away just like that?" And
Yeah.
he's like, "Okay, now you're going to have to work harder to get it back if you really want this, but now you're going to appreciate it in different levels." But not only that, I being able to go through this journey, I understand what other people go through. I have
Mm-hmm.
compassion of different bodies and traumas that we go through. Being young, a lot of people, especially as a physical therapist, I have so many older people that come to me and they're like, "Oh, well, you don't know what this feels like, or you don't know what this is, or how would you know, you've never experienced this?" And I'm like, well, actually, yes, I was, crawling at one point. I was in a wheelchair at one point. Like I tell them my story, and then they kind of like look back and they're like, "Oh,
Oh, yeah.
okay, like you do know what you're saying." So it helped me understand on a whole nother level. But then that's what opened me up into my wellness center that I
Mm-hmm.
started when I was 18 years old. So after my car accident, I started finding like going to all these different therapies and things, and nothing was really working for me. And so my stubbornness was like, all right, well, I'm just going to go back into ballet class. I'll get over my ego and I'll go take the adult ballet class
Right.
and go in there. And mind you, I could not feel my feet. There was a
Oh my
numbness
goodness.
on my feet.
Wow.
So trying to balance on one foot and feel the ground was very difficult for me. And
Wow.
I lost my flexibility. So it was basically I went from being like flexible gimbo, like Circus Soleil, where
Yes.
you'd be able to touch your head on your butt.
Oh
Like I
my
used to be able
golly.
to be that flexible,
Wow.
pretzel, um, to like barely being able to like pull my head, like look down at my feet, and all of a sudden nerve pain shooting down my whole entire spine, my
Oh my
body,
gosh.
everything. And so I just decided, you know what, this is what my body is. Nobody can fix me. So I miss dancing. So I'll just go back to dance and just push my way through it and fight the battle. And over like a week period of time, there was a girl that had just moved from Boston, and she was watching me, and she approached me one day and she was like, I noticed you're really struggling with stuff. What's going on? And I was like, well, I was in this car accident and all these things. And she goes, well, have you ever heard of gyrotonic? And I
Mm.
remember I looked at her and I was like, gyro, what? And she goes, no, gyrotonic. And I was like, what is gyrotonic? And she started telling me, she's like, well, I'm a certified instructor. It's like along the lines of Pilates, yoga, Tai Chi, dance, and swimming all put together on a machine. And, you know, it's a pulley system, and it makes you feel like you're swimming and moving through water so you can increase your flexibility and your strength. And I was like, okay, sign me up. I'm like, I'll try this. So I ended up falling in love with the system, and
Oh, wow.
I was seeing her 3 times a week. And over 2 month period, I was able to go from barely being able to look my head, like touch my chin to my chest, to being able to actually touch my toes for the first.
Holy cow. Wow.
And my pain started decreasing. And then by 4 months of doing this, she looked at me and she goes, Rachel, I've taught you everything I can teach you. You need to go get trained in this yourself. And so I was like, okay. So I
Sounds
went
like a
and got
plan.
certified. Yeah. So I ended up going and getting certified and trained myself, and went to Germany and got to go train with the headmaster, Julio Horvath,
Wow. That's
and
pretty
study
awesome.
with him. And while I was there too, I also I was supposed to go to Spain when I was 18, and with my flamenco dancer teacher Jose Molina. He's a well known flamenco instructor. I did not know um, his stature until I went to Spain in 2010, and I started touring around in Spain and taking at different dance studios and things like that. And I was supposed to go tour with Jose, but we had fallen up out of contact through the division or the changing of Oregon Ballet Theatre. And
Oh,
so I he was in I knew he was in New York at that time, so I would have tried to find him in Spain. But I started searching around and just taking classes, and um, before you know it, I was in a class and I walked into the studio and I start looking at the wall, and there is picture after picture after picture of Jose Molina
oh
throughout
my
the
goodness.
whole entire studio. And I
Holy
start going to all
cow.
these different studios, and I start seeing my instructor on, on the walls, and
Wow.
I'm like, I knew
Holy
he was
cow.
like a well-known dancer, but I
Yeah.
did not know on this level.
Oh my
And so
goodness.
I'm like, I'm in class, and I barely spoke any Spanish, but I knew enough. And having the ability to like really be able, I could like watch what you're doing and instantly mimic what you were doing. I like, you didn't even have to show me the choreography. I could just follow along with exactly what you were doing and do it. And so I was in the classes and I'm like doing everything with the teachers telling me to do. And then all of a sudden she just stops class and she comes and walks up to me and she goes, who trained you? And I was like, Jose Molina. And she goes, "The Jose," and she's all pointing on the wall, and she goes, "The Jose Molina," and I was like, "See," and she was like, "Oh my goodness," and she's like, "Where have you been?" And I was like, "In the United
That's so funny.
States," and so it was in that moment that I realized that who had trained me since I was 8 years old. And
Wow.
so
That's
I had
incredible.
no idea the stature of this man. I just knew he was
Wow.
an amazing flamenco dancer.
That's
And so
incredible.
that opened up doors for me to actually go and be able to perform at different events and things while I was in Spain. So I actually got to
Oh, that's
go
awesome.
and do my touring and actually perform flamenco while I was in Spain during that time. And so when I got back, I ended up going into a dance company. And then I ended up getting married. But then that ended up turning into a huge narcissistic, abusive relationship.
Oh
And
no.
from the toxic from that, I ended up getting my third round of cancer, but this time it
Wow.
was liver cancer at the age of 24.
Oh my
And
goodness.
he didn't like he liked me dancing, but then he didn't like that I danced with partners. And
Right.
so I ended up getting kicked down the stairs one day from my stepdaughter. She was very
Wow.
something else. She was something else. Um, and but her and her sister, they were actually plotting all these different ways of trying to get their, because they had different moms. And so they, at one point, it was very toxic. They both came from drug homes. And so I was
Okay.
like trying to help them from this. One of them was just 12 years old. I mean, no child should ever have to go through the things that her mom put her through, but I was trying to help them the best I could and give them a different life. But at
Yeah.
that point, I didn't have the support from their father to be able to really help and create those changes and release those, work on those traumas. And
Right. Yeah.
because you really have to, at that age of 6 and 8, when you're in abusive homes, there's a small period of time that you have to really transition the conscious mind so that they don't grow up in
Yeah.
the abusive narcissistic mindsets and things like that. So I was really trying to help them go through these things, but there wasn't that support on the father's side, so it made it very
Yeah.
difficult and challenging.
Yes. Yes.
So I ended up getting my rib broken um, several times from my ex, and then he ended up breaking my foot
Oh my
to try to
gosh.
keep me from dancing. But then actually,
Oh my
it did the
God.
opposite. I actually ended up performing on a broken foot and yeah, and a broken 12th rib that is actually now it's only a piece of cartilage that's holding my rib together. It never grew
Wow.
together. So I still have this like pain from it that I have to deal with. And but I ended up actually mentally pushing myself through the performance and rehearsals without anyone knowing I had a broken foot or a broken rib. And so
Oh my God.
I was
Holy cow.
talk about like being able to master and mask your pain with a pleasant smile and no one not know that you have these
Wow.
broken bones in your body and you're just getting
Oh,
thrown through the loops. So
wow.
after that, I ended up getting liver cancer. And then I took a break from dance for a moment to heal from all of that after my last show that we did. Then I ended up going through a divorce. Well, before the divorce, I was pregnant with, so back in 2015, I was pregnant with triplets. And at
Oh,
4 months, I miscarried my triplets.
oh
And
my goodness.
that was
Wow.
you want to talk about spiritual warfare and curses and things.
Oh my goodness.
That was
Wow.
actually what happened to me with my my miscarriage is that my ex, he actually cursed and wished my babies gone.
Wow.
And that's a whole nother podcast segment that we could
Yeah.
talk about in
Oh
itself.
my God.
I'll just briefly like talk over that one. Is that, you know, in the Shoshone way, and mine in the native way, because he was also native too. When you marry into two cultures together, if the man goes and lives with the woman and her family, he's supposed to adapt to that tribe. If the
Right.
woman goes and lives with the man, then she's supposed to adapt to his tribe. Well, he
Hmm.
came and lived with us, so he was supposed to be adapting to the Shoshone way, my way, but he was pushing the Navajo way on us. And so there was there was this constant conflict of my way versus your way, and things like
Right.
that and
That's
whatnot.
good. Yeah.
And he was your class A narcissist, and so it was always his way had to be the correct way, even if it
Uh,
meant losing babies. That, you know, it had to be the his way or the highway. And we were hunting at that time, and it was we were fishing. And so, and then in the Shoshone way, the women, we always handled blood and dressed the deer or fish and things like that. Navajo way, I was told, his way was that women aren't to look at blood, and if they see blood like that from an animal, you'll miscarry. And so he kept saying, telling me that I was going to miscarry my babies because I kept
oh.
watching my niece got the fish. And one day I was just looking down, and I wasn't even really looking at the blood. I was just daydreaming and I was off in my own world, but my
Mhm.
glance was down in that direction. And he looked at me and said, "It's your fault. I told you not to look at the blood, the babies. This is your fault." And then he started speaking in Navajo to me. And then I just saw this black cloud go around him. And then all of a sudden, I just felt this energy and this pain in my stomach. And that night, I lost my babies.
Oh
And
my gosh.
so from there, I ended up having
Wow.
to start a brand new job 4 days after I miscarried. Called the Cry Me card, and so he quit his job.
Oh.
So then I ended up working, so we didn't lose the home and pay the bills. So I should have been bedridden, but I went 4 days after. So this is in the summertime too. I didn't have AC. I was I was driving delivery. Um, and so I was in the car all day long, 12 hours a day, 6 days a week, 7 days a week sometimes. And over time, I
Wow.
ended, without the proper care and things, I ended up getting stage 4 cancer by the time 2017 came. And I was actually in Mexico on my last trip. It was my, you know, I was planning to go home. I was getting ready to um, go back and meet creator. And I was on my last trip in Mexico with my dad and my grandpa. And one night I was sitting there and I just kept getting attacked by all these entities. And they were putting all
Wow.
these different suicidal thoughts in my head of different ways to try to kill myself.
Oh,
And I just grabbed my head and I just kept
oh
like telling my
my
dad, you
gosh.
know, make it stop, make it stop. And my dad came over and grabbed me like, you know, like a little girl, and just pulled me into his arms. And the moment he pulled me into his arms, I was no longer on this earth. I was in God's arms. I was in heaven. I had died.
Wow.
um
Wow.
I was given the chance to either stay in heaven and I could be free from all of the burdens and all the sufferings and the hell that I had been going through, or um I was given a chance to come back and heal myself naturally from cancer, from stage 4 cancer, and to be that testament again that, you know, you can heal naturally from cancer, that you don't have to go through radiation and chemo and surgeries after surgeries, and that through faith and herbs and other
Wow.
healing modalities that we can heal. And so I was like, okay, I couldn't leave myself in Mexico with my dad and grandpa
Mhm.
and, you know, my family. And so I was like, okay, I wanted to stay there so bad because of my babies. And But I
Yes.
was like, all
Goodness.
right, I'll go back. So I came back with a mission, and
Wow.
I'll never forget when I was actually going to school for herbology at that time, and I had just learned about the cancer that I was diagnosed with, and all of the
Oh,
herbs to heal myself.
wow. Wow. See, there's the universe and God working for you right there.
Mhm. Yeah, and then
Wow.
the moment that we landed from Mexico and we're driving down the street and we're almost
Wow.
home, I drive past this building and I hear, Rachel, right there, that acupuncture place, right there on Monday, you have to call them. And I was like, okay.
Wow.
So I ended up calling on Monday, ended up being my old acupuncturist I worked with when I was in my car accident. She's a fourth
Wow.
generation Harvard doctor, and just all this background. I ended up going to her and she starts helping me. And over time, she's like, Rachel, you need to have your own wellness center again. And so I was like, okay. So she actually she's like that. She had this beautiful space and she was like, I want you in this space right here with your mom. I want you guys doing your Native American healing and
Wow.
your cancer healing here in the space. And so
Wow.
I was like, okay. So we ended up starting to create this one-stop shop of this holistic healing where you could go get acupuncture, massage therapy. There we have a natural path. There's that you have then you have vibration sound therapy, then you have physical therapy,
Wow.
then you have the herbalist, and then you have there's it's
That's
basically we set up
amazing.
this one-stop shop so that because what my thing was is going through cancer, I had to go through I spent a lot more time driving to all my appointments scattered across Portland, Vancouver area than I did at the actual appointments. And so then I started
Yes.
like, you know what, we need a place where you can go to all these healing modalities in one place, one stop shop. So
Yeah.
you don't have to spend all this time driving from point A to point B to get all of your healing done. So I started
Wow.
working on this wellness center that had this like one stop shop of what I needed when I was going through my like the worst part of my cancer and things like that. So
Wow.
I started creating this center. So Zimee Wellness Center. So Zimee is Shoshone for North Star. So meaning
Okay,
that
cool.
that true North Star that always stays there, that always shines in the sky, and
Wow. That's
that
awesome.
going back to the ancient, the holistic healing, the bringing those ancestors back, connecting yourself back to your true self and your true being and your highest self and the connection to creator and your ancestors and the land and having that healing within yourself and
Yeah, that's
helping
amazing.
helping others get because the thing is a lot of people don't have the reign in their own hands of their healing. And
Hmm.
so that's the thing is like they're
Yeah,
like, hey, you know what, here, Jennifer,
so
like
true.
hold on to my
Yeah,
healing over here. You're going to be my advocate, but it's up to you to do my healing.
right.
But yet you don't
Yeah,
know what's going on with my body. And so it's like,
exactly.
it's like helping people listen and re-engage with their body so that you can be in tune with your body and know like you know what, oh nope, this is out of alignment, oh nope, something's going on here,
Yeah,
oh nope, I'm depleted on vitamin C, or nope, vitamin B's, like, so you
yes.
start listening and you start being more in tune with your body, then you actually start to hear what's going on with your body before you even
Hmm.
get to the doctor to be diagnosed with something. And so you'd be surprised how many times I know what I'm like diagnosed with in a
Right.
sense before I even go to the doctor. I'll be like, I have this, or I'm like, I'm getting, like my asthma's coming, acting up, but it's from the allergies and it's from this. And I'm noticing the air quality change and
Yeah.
all these different things. And they're kind of like looking at me like, what the heck are you talking about? Oh, another thing, like with my pelvic cancer, I've been having this
Yeah.
severe chronic pain, but I've been having this pain in the left side of my hip, not in the uterine. And for the
Mm.
past 2 years, I have been telling my doctor, I have pain in the left side of my hip. And she kept saying that, okay, it must be tied to uterine cancer. It could be tumors. endometriosis, all these things. And she's really just staying focused in the uterine. And I kept telling her, I know my body, I can't
Yeah.
lift my muscles. I'm athletic. I'm not able to lift my leg the way I should be able to. I'm not able to access my psoas muscle the way I should be able to. It's hurting. I'm getting all these fire signals, like all these things that are not connecting. And I kept
Right.
advocating for myself, saying, you know what? No, like, listen to me. It is not my
Yeah.
uterine that's causing this pain. Then she kept saying, it's in your head. Then the doctors kept saying, oh, this pain's in your head. And
Oh
I'm
my
like, so
gosh.
then I started going back into kickboxing. I started going back into dance. I started going into weightlifting. I started swimming a mile. I'm a triathlete. So I started swimming a couple miles a day again. I started running a couple miles a day again. I started biking 27 miles.
Wow.
I
Oh my
started
gosh.
like going into all these things, and my pain was decreasing in a way, but yet it was increasing like no other. And I kept telling
Mm.
her, I'm like, I'm doing all these therapies. I'm getting my massage. I'm getting acupuncture. I'm getting cupping. I'm getting trigger point
Yeah.
therapy. Like, I'm doing all of these things, and it's like the pain is there. It's not in my head. And so finally I was like, I need to see a muscle skeletal, like I need to see an osteo
Osteopath.
osteopath. Oh my goodness. La, la, la. And I'm like, I need to go see someone. But not only that, I was, again, being an athlete, I was like, I need to see someone that knows a professional athlete, not
Yes.
someone that just works on anybody. I need someone that knows an athlete,
Specials. Yeah.
specials. So I
Oh,
ended up getting in with the top surgeon of the Northwest, who is the surgeon of the Portland Trailblazers. And he's also the surgeon for the Timbers, the Portland Timbers. And he is on the board of OHSU.
oh
And
my
so
goodness.
I ended up getting like this
The
top
best guy.
surgeon, the best
The
guy.
best guy.
Yes, guy. So I get in there and I go and see the surgeon, and he has me go do x-rays. I had some MRI imaging done before I had seen him, but he had me go do x-rays. And he, for the first time, is having me actually do x-rays of my hips, like in a butterfly, in positions that a dancer would be
Oh,
in.
right.
To be able to
Makes
see the
sense.
flexibility of the open hips and where your joints
Right.
sitting inside the hip socket. And so he actually started looking at me as a professional athlete, and looking at the muscle structure of everything, and started seeing things. Then he goes and sits down, pulls up the MRI, and then starts looking around. Within 5 minutes, he's like, zooms in, finds this big black hole, and he's like, I, he's like, you see this black hole? And I was like, yeah. And he goes, that's your psoas not attached. He goes, that black hole right there, there's supposed to
Oh,
be a muscle attached right there.
oh my
So
God.
he said, and he goes, and that ball that's up on your ovary that they keep thinking is a tumor or a cyst is actually your muscle that is in a ball on top of your ovary.
Oh my
And
God.
so he said, he goes, you have been walking around for the past 2 years with your psoas disattached. This
Oh
is
my God.
one of the most important muscles in the stomach that you need. I mean, this muscle helps lift your leg up and down so you can walk, so you can step, go up and down stairs, so you can
Holy
move,
moly.
so you can just anytime you use your stomach, you're using your psoas. Like,
Wow.
it's so important. And I kept going,
Wow.
I was back in dance and doing all these things. Then all of a sudden I just had this real realization that I had this, oh, like, excuse my French, but I had this oh shit moment
Yeah,
of
yeah.
like, I was kickboxing. I should not have been doing that.
Oh,
I was
yeah.
running. I
All the
should
stuff
not
you've
have
been
been
doing.
doing that. I was
Oh my
weightlifting. I should
goodness.
not have been doing that. I was like, I was
Wow.
going down the list of all of these things, and I was like, I
Holy
should not
cow.
have been doing any of this. No wonder why I'm hurting like I am. So I end up going
Yep.
back to my doctor, and I go, okay, we found the problem. And she goes, okay, what is it? And I said, it is not uterine related. My psoas is not attached. It ripped. it completely tore. And I'll never forget, because she actually had her one of the students in there that day,
It was there.
that was with her. And at first I wasn't going to let the student come in and listen to the whole conversation. But then I was like, you know what?
That's a
Actually,
good lesson.
let the student come in. Let the student come in and
Yeah.
listen to this one.
Good lesson. Yeah.
And so at the end of the whole conversation, my doctor looks at the nurse and goes, okay, lesson of the day with the uterine. Don't always think that it's the pain in the pelvis is uterine. Like, don't keep the blinders on. Clearly, she was like, clearly, I thought it was uterine related, and this was muscle skeletal. And she's been telling me this for 2 years, and I didn't listen.
Well, and that's the other lesson, is to listen to the patient.
Exactly. And put the ego aside, like, just
right?
because
Totally.
you
Ego's
don't
huge.
know,
Yeah.
and put that ego aside. Instead of, you could actually get further along in your practice by listening to a person that actually knows their body, especially athletes. I mean, and a ballet dancer, we're trained to know how to move every part of our body as a mechanic machine.
Right.
We are trained to access every single muscle and tendon and ligament to be able to move the body in such, smooth ways and be so flexible. And it's like, you have to be able to know where these things are. So, when any little thing is out of alignment, you feel it.
Yes.
So
Totally.
any little alignment, so this whole thing with my hip, it's affecting my knee, it's affecting my feet, it's affecting my hip, it's affecting my shoulder,
Your stomach muscles, your whole everything.
It twists
Wow.
everything up. And so I'm actually now waiting for my surgery to go and get this muscle sewn back together after 2 years of going through this pain that has been in my head.
Goodness. It's a really clear message for everyone to take charge of your own health and wellness. And I mean, I'm all for preventative rather than reactive, right? So just, and know, like, I'll tell you a little bit about me. I broke my back and was basically told I would never have any sports, never have kids, and I would have a hunchback. And I was 19. It was very similar to you. And I was like, you know what? No, I don't think so. That's not me. And the specialist, it was like, yeah, well, you're just going to have to accept that you're not going to have the life that you thought you were going to have. And I'm like, no, not even close. So the power of what you can do for yourself is beyond anything. And because they have a doctor by their name and they're a specialist doesn't mean that they know everything, because they don't.
Exactly.
And take charge.
So that's why I'm a big advocate for taking the rein in your hands and listening to your body and fighting, because there's been so many points where in my life where I could have been and submitted in a sense, to what the doctors were telling me, and like, oh yeah, it's in my head, or I don't know my body. But it was always at those moments where I almost gave in to what they were wanting me to believe, that I kept fighting. And it was at those moments that the table would turn, and then all of a sudden it was like the grace of God was on my side, to go, okay, and back me up and say, no, look, that she's right. Like, listen to her. This is happening. Get your ego, put the ego aside. People do know how to listen to their body. And yes, and this is the thing, is I would always, I'm very respectful with my doctor too, because of the whole opiate epidemic that's going on and things like that. And so there's that whole thing. So there's a whole nother trust that I had to build with my doctor on that side of things, where when I first went into the doctor with my cancer, before my cancer, I was 120 pounds, roughly, all muscle. I was like, I had only maybe 6% fat. And then all of a sudden I dropped down to 85 pounds. I was in stage 4 cancer, where you could literally see my bones, my face was sunk in, like you could see.
God.
I saw it was disgusting. I have picture or a video of, you could see my heart literally pumping through my chest. I was so skinny.
Oh my gosh.
From the cancer. but they treated me as if I was a meth addict. I was treated like I've never
Oh my
touched meth
gosh.
in my life or heroin, and they treated me like I was some drug seeking person, when all I wanted was to have confirmation that I had cancer, because
Wow.
I knew I had cancer. But
Wow.
even then it was an argument for a year for them to finally see that I had cancer, and I had to do my own research of so there's a marker, it's a CA 125, and then that marker you can actually get that blood tested, and you can see the markers, and that right there is for female hormones for the cancer level. And so
Wow.
I actually went to my natural path and had her, and I started having my natural path going and looking at my own, where I was deficient in minerals
Right.
and vitamins. And I had her giving me, I was doing cocktails, so IV cocktails, where they give you all the minerals, vitamins, and things that you're deficient through an IV.
Right.
And so that you can get it quicker without
Quick.
having to take handfuls of pills
Yeah.
and vitamins and stuff. And so I had her test for my CA 125 marker, and it was extremely high, through the roof. I took it to my doctor and I said, "You see this right here? This is what I've been trying to tell you. I have cancer."
Oh
And
my
so it was at
God.
that point that they finally started looking at me and listening to me, and look, and like, oh, she actually like knows what she's talking about. Oh, okay.
Wow.
And then also being Native American, that's a whole nother level
Yeah.
of things too, of how do
Yep.
you know this knowledge being Native American? Like how are you this educated? Um, so there was that, right? So there was that aspect of it. And so it was like, so I literally had to like take those reins and drive the car, or else
Yeah.
I would have never gotten the
True
answers that
that.
I needed.
No. Holy cow.
And so it's so important to, listen to your body, to, even if the doctor is like telling you, no, 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 it's in your head. And with everything inside you,
Yeah.
don't listen. Keep,
No.
what I say, I can fire my doctor. That's the
Yeah.
nice thing. I can fire my doctor. I don't like you, I'm going to fire you. And so there was this whole sense of mentality that I had to change too, of like, we don't work for the doctor works for us.
Right. Exactly.
They work for us, we are paying them to help us. So I'm like, take that in for a second. We aren't working for them, they're working for us. So if your doctor isn't listening to you, then maybe you should find a different doctor. You don't owe that doctor anything.
Yeah.
And so that's
Exactly.
that's the other thing that I've had to do, is like, advocate on that aspect. I'm like, you know what? You're not listening to me. You're fired. I'm getting a different doctor next.
Yeah.
And so I've fired many doctors, and it's okay. But you know what? I've been, because of that, I've been able to I have my own team of doctors that all work together. But I wouldn't have gotten to this point if it weren't for me advocating for myself. There's
Yeah.
no way my doctor would have done this for me. There's no way, I don't have anybody else to do this for me, or my mom's not going to do it for me. I mean, she can
Wow.
help to a certain extent, but
Yeah.
literally you're the one that has to do it. And so I think that's like with my message too, is just, advocate for yourself. Um, there's, there's never there's always a way. There's always a
Right.
way. There's always an answer.
Everything is figure outable, as Marie Folio says. Everything is figure
Yeah.
outable. I love that.
Yeah. And,
Yeah.
and just take that, listen to yourself, and,
Yeah.
honor yourself and your life and your journey, and be the driver of your own car.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. It's the best. That's the best advice ever. I don't want to keep you any longer, but this has been absolutely fabulous. I'm going to, we'll chat for a minute after I stop the recording, but I thank you so much. This has just been fascinating. And I know that your story is certainly one that can inspire anyone. And really, I guess you nailed it. The message is take control, take the reins, and drive your own car, and be your own advocate. And I'm afraid to disagree with these professionals, right? They're human. And like you said, I mean, you know your body. So Thank you
Mhm.
again, and
You're
God
welcome.
bless you. We'll talk to you again soon. We'll see you in a minute. And remember to go out and do something that makes you sparkle today and every day, friends. We'll catch you next time on Find Your Sparkle with Jen. Bye for now.